Hey, so instead of a merger, the Athletic actually wants the Big 12 and the ACC to trade 6 of their total teams, and it's maybe the stupidest thing I've ever read with my eyes. This is a Locked On Big 12, Locked On Baylor crossover.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to a Locked On Big 12, Locked On Baylor crossover. I'm Drake Toll from America's #1 Big 12 podcast, Locked On Big 12. And that's Cameron Stuart of Locked On Baylor, who's nominally funny and sometimes entertaining, so he's on today's show. My brain hurts. My brain hurts dearly. Thanks for making our shows your first listen every single day. Because Stuart Mandel of The Athletic, who probably makes more money than I do, who probably makes a decent, it's probably close, who probably makes a decent chunk with The Athletic, said one of the stupidest things that I have read from a national source, national reporter. I'll be at Big 12 Media Days tomorrow, the next 2 days, and hopefully Stuart's there. So I'm going to be like, hey, Stu, what was this? He says, what if the ACC, so this is fan mail. Someone writes to Stu at Neanderthal, says, what if the ACC and Big 12 made a trade? ACC gets Cincinnati, West Virginia, and UCF. Big 12 gets, drum roll, please, SMU. Like, all right, cool. Stanford and Cal. That's from Andy J. in Columbus, Ohio. Stuart's response to this is not only to entertain it, but also to say, how about it makes too much sense to Stuart that Stanford and Cal will be in the Big 12. We'll start there. Then we'll talk disaster quarterback rankings. A national source has picked the quarterbacks in the Big 12, and they really, really don't like your team or any of the good quarterbacks. Some of it's okay. Then TV rights money is going away. They're running out of money, which kind of makes sense, and is going to change, again, the face of college football. If you hit subscribe, we keep our jobs. Is it time for the Big 12 to give away West Virginia, UCF, Cincinnati, adding Cal, Stanford, and SMU?
No. Was that a rhetorical? Because, no, it's probably not. The only Cal I want is Ripken Jr., man. I have no use for Cal or Stanford, which this is why I love college football, man, and general realignment talk in general. Like, if you don't watch college football and you just had this discussion of why on God's green earth would I want Cal and Stanford? I want to keep West Virginia. People would be like, what is this? What is this that they're discussing here? We've talked about it on the show. I kind of have a soft spot for West Virginia. I think you do too. And I don't think they love Baylor very much, but they don't make much sense being in the Big 12, but I kind of want them in the Big 12. It's kind of the same thing with BYU.
They make sense.
It's not like a perfect fit where they are geographically mainly, but I'll take them in the Big 12. I'll even take SMU, which I know we've talked about quite a bit, but Cal and Stanford, I don't need that. I don't need that in my life. I don't need them. In fact, there were some Big 12 teams that I would send out to couple with those teams and make a new Pac-12 before I'd take those in the Big 12.
Why would this make too much sense? Why would a human person...
The too much sense is strong, I think.
Why would a human person who's a national reporter who gets paid a lot of money to do this say, oh, wow, Cal and Stanford are the same two schools that for years are like, look at those idiots over there in the Big 12. Just this pompous nose so high in the air that there's a race on the ground.
They prayed there the other day?
Right. And they want to be in our coveted Pac-12, the Conference of Champions, with their religion.
Champions.
And now, it's a pretty well-known storyline. It's pretty well known. Those two schools pretty much hate everything about what the Big 12 is. And that the Big 12, conversely, would not want to touch either of them because, wow, swimming is good. Equestrian is solid.
What do those teams bring at all?
They have polo. They're the only two schools in the country that have the actual horseback riding polo, which apparently is very bad for the horse, mind you. Just keep that in mind.
Next time they thumb their nose at you, okay, remind them of that. Yeah,
like Big 12 wins a national championship in golf, which did happen this year, by the way. But you get that from Stanford, and what did you get from their 0-12 football team and their men's basketball team that midseason decided to have a contract holdout and they're not playing the rest of the year because of some controversial political issue?
There are some members of the Big 12 squad who were arguing a few weeks ago that they would rather have, the golfer that played at Stanford than being good at football. So
they would deny a trip to Provo. Both of these schools.
Yes. Yeah.
The student athletes, I can see the press release. Our student athletes have decided in unity, they've decided unanimously to not make the trip to Provo, and they would forfeit every game against BYU.
And they will play only on Sundays, as a matter of fact.
This was so public how badly they hated the Big 12, how badly they hated the idea of Oklahoma State or Texas Tech or Baylor going to the Pac-12 or TCU or any of those, that how can you be an alive person and say, oh, hell, man, that makes too much sense.
I have no remorse for any of those kind of core Pac-12 schools because, like, I guess Arizona and Arizona State would fall into the core Pac-12, but I think we know kind of how those discussions were going. And Colorado certainly wasn't a core one. Utah wasn't really a core one. They were there for a couple of years passing by. They feel like Big 12 schools. But yeah, the Stanfords, the Cals, the UCLAs and USCs, even an Oregon and a Washington. I don't really feel bad that Stanford and Cal are scrambling to find a spot because, like, they're in the ACC. But is that really working out for either side? Definitely not. Yeah, I don't feel bad for them after the spring and summer of 2021 or so when we were all scrambling and that's how they acted. So
can I ask you? This is kind of objective to me.
Yeah.
So sorry to everybody, but who is the 16th brand in the Big 12? Who's last right now? Who is? We have to cut one school. Who's gone?
Cincinnati?
Yeah, it's pretty clear to me.
Yeah.
And I had someone comment recently, I'm a Cincinnati fan and you are so biased and you hate us. And I was like, no. I if you were winning football games, trust me, this would be not a problem. But now that you're losing in a lot of things, keeping you might cost us more than it is to get rid of you. And it's only been 2 years, so there's plenty of time for them to rebound from that. But maybe that's the one part of this where I'm like, you know what? Maybe that's all Stuart Red. It's only Red.
Like, you know what? The Big 12 doesn't need Cincinnati. This makes too much sense.
If we traded Cincinnati for SMU tomorrow, I mean, when I grow up, I will be Army. Grape. This would be spectacular for the brand. I don't think we need Stanford and Cal.
Yeah, I don't think so. This is like Stuart Mandel reading this is like that one guy who thinks the second best player on the team is actually kind of a jerk and that you need to trade him. And someone puts a trade proposal with like the other MLB team's 6th and 7th and 8th best prospects who are probably never going to make the majors. And they're like, yeah, let's do it, man. Get rid of this clown. Like that has to be the thought process there. Nothing against Cincinnati. If Cincinnati wins more football games, I think we'll probably take to them the way we do to West Virginia, who's having their own struggles winning football games right now. But I think you just be like, yeah, you know what? But they're plucky. We like them. And if Cincinnati was dared to be good enough to be in like a CFP hunt, man, I think we would all be behind them. Like, I mean, look at the way the Big 12 rallied around TCU 2 years ago. Not Baylor fans, obviously, but a lot of Big 12 fans rallied around that TCU team.
God
Cincinnati,
forbid.
man, you just need to win some.
Any Baylor fan root for that TCU team. Oh,
God forbid. That would make you such a bad Baylor fan. Like that would make any sense.
The things we do for false love.
Little sense.
Things we do for false love. Coming up, what a disaster these quarterback rankings are that I found on the interwebs. Locked on Big 12, Locked on Baylor. Hey, today's show is brought to you by Gametime. Why is it brought to you by Gametime? Because when I need tickets, and I need tickets fast, please. Gametime is the place I go to get them. You decide last minute, I'm going to go to that MLB game because it's game day, and I want to see the Rockies play. You're a maniac. But Gametime makes it possible. They make buying tickets fast and simple. The official ticketing partner of Locked on MLB, making it easy to browse the app for exciting upcoming MLB games. Zone deals. 10% off exclusive zone deals for FIFA Club World Cup matchups. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the app today. Create an account. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account. Redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. This was fun. This is Cincinnati.com. They are the Inquirer, Cincinnati Inquirer, effectively, wrote out their Big 12 quarterback power rankings. Number 1, Sam Leavitt. Number 2, Sawyer Robertson.
Too low. Way too low. Way too low.
Yeah. Well, one's college ball playoff. The other was a guy who made $0 last year for Baylor because DeQuan Finn was making $2.5 million or whatever the number was. And oops, somebody made a very large mistake there. Then we get to the point where I'm like, okay, let's really analyze. I want to mention the craziest part is the further you get to the bottom, like Nico Marchiol, who has played a lot of Big 12 football, is at 13. Then at 14, 15, and 16, they're like, I don't even know who's going to be the quarterback. They have UCF, BYU, who's still a conference contender, at Oklahoma State, at just a list of random names next to each of them. Is like, I don't know.
Put the fact that BYU is not in last is pretty funny, though.
Yeah. Well, what? What do you mean?
Like you don't even know really.
As in, like they don't.
Be.
Yeah, but do we know that Haas Haney is going to be the starter at Oklahoma State?
You're right, but he has played. He's played in this conference before.
Or Zane Flores.
I'm a big Haas Haney guy, so maybe that's the problem here.
Taven Jackson, Ja'Cory Brown, and Cam Fancher. First time on this show, the name Cam Fancher has been declared into existence.
I mean, we know all about Cam Fancher. Naturally,
if I said Taven Jackson, Ja'Cory Brown, Cam Fancher, who do they play for?
I would be just as ready to say Atletico Madrid than the team they actually play for.
All three of those guys will probably be at media days as well for the University of Central Florida and Scott Frost. Then there is McKay Hillstead, Trayson Bourget, and Bear Bachmeier at BYU. Those guys are listed at 15, and I think all three of those are just kind of a wash for the Inquirer, who's just like, I don't know, put him at the bottom.
Don't care.
Robertson at 2, 3 Josh Hoover, 4 Rocco Becht, and then New York Post Heisman Trophy winner Avery Johnson at 5. Yeah. Is this just like a fall from grace to have Avery Johnson at 5? Does he deserve this, or is he like still a top 3 quarterback in this conference?
I still think he is a top 3. But we kind of talked about Hoover a bit last week.
Yeah, he's good.
Like I understand the reasoning as to this ranking. Like I think Avery Johnson is a bit better, but like I also understand when you look at the pure stats, you're like, well, it's really tough to argue. And the other thing I give Josh Hoover a ton of credit for is the fact that he had 0 running game, and he was able to keep his team in game. So I do get that. And I think, by the way, I think they nail like 6 through 12 on this list. I think this is the most faithful I've seen to the middle of the pack Big 12 quarterback.
I kind of disagree. We'll get into it.
Let's talk top 5.
Obviously, Rocco Becht at 4 above Avery Johnson doesn't make a ton of sense in my brain. That's where I'm thinking, no, I still think Avery Johnson's a Heisman contender.
And I like Rocco too. I just like when you look at the intangibles of things, like Avery Johnson's a better quarterback.
And look, I think Rocco Becht last year emerged as a guy after the Iowa game where people thought, oh, I now know the name Rocco Becht, who's been at Iowa State for a bit. And they write, Cincinnati.com, they write, he has got an Iowa State.
They're right. They write, though, you know.
They write here that he led them to their first 11-win season, and that it's time people outside of Ames learn who Rocco Becht is. What? Pretty well-known guy now in college football. People know Rocco Becht is the quarterback at Iowa State. I think it's you, Cincinnati.com, who just Googled Big 12 stats. Like, who's this Rocco Becht they speak of? It's really good.
Yeah, at some point they've probably done like 8 of them, and they're like, wait a minute, who's the Iowa State quarterback? They were good. They went to the conference championship last year. We got to have this guy in here somewhere.
Robertson at 2.
And then he was texting the group chat being like, chat, is Rocco Becht better than Avery Johnson? He sends the Charles Barkley thing, like, we need to start dialogue.
And it's a 2-person department. It was just the intern who was like, I don't even know who that is. I don't follow sports.
Like, Avery Johnson, the basketball coach?
PR major.
I think he's got to be better than the basketball coach.
Levitt is the undisputed number 1 champion of the world. Sawyer Robertson he's the quarterback. He's the 6'4", just this. He's got the biceps. He's got the build. He's it. Josh Hoover to Rocco Becht to Avery Johnson does feel like the next tier. Then Baron Morton at 6, Jalen Daniels at 7, Noah Fafita at 8. The streets remember Noah Fafita.
We were talking Heisman, Noah Fafita, and Jalen Daniels last year.
Yep, and that has not gone as planned. But
that's kind of crazy, man, to think that they come back the next year and they're just mid-tier quarterbacks in their conference. It's kind of wild.
It's crazy they're still playing college football in my brain. And I still think they might be above Baron Morton in my power rankings. I mean, and possibly it's because I went to Baylor, and every time I really do closely watch Baron Morton play against Baylor, he throws 7 interceptions.
He sucks, yeah.
But I'm not sure if he jumps off the page as a guy that I have seen Jalen Daniels and Noah Fafita jump off the page. I have not seen Baron Morton give me something to go, oh shoot, he's like a national championship caliber quarterback.
Well, yeah, the thing that we use for Josh Hoover can be used in reverse for Baron Morton. Like Baron Morton's had great running backs or running attack the last couple of years with Taj Brooks. I would take Jalen Daniels over Baron Morton. But when you look at, like, again, the way I'm trying to get in their heads here and looking at the stats, the ESPN stats, the little thing in the corner that just shows you yards, touchdowns, picks. Like Baron Morton's right there with his numbers with Sam Levitt and Sawyer Robertson. I don't think he elevated his team the way that those two guys did. And I think Jalen Daniels does and certainly did at the end of the year in that Jeff Grimes offense. Like, for sure, I would be taking him over Baron Morton. But Morton has gotten better as his career has gone on. He's one of those like high floor, low ceiling kind of guys. He takes care of the football a lot better than he used to. So I understand the reasoning. This is where I'm like splitting hairs, because with a lot of these lists, I'm like, this guy should be 5 spots higher, or this guy should be 5 spots lower. I think Jalen Daniels is better. I'd rather have him on my team than Baron Morton, but 1 spot difference. The next tier is where I think they're really getting. I know I said 6 through 12, but I think definitely that next tier of like 9 through 12 is pretty good. Yeah.
That's a Texas Tech fan will hear that and point at all of Jalen Daniels' stats from last year and say, seriously? They're right because he was bad. He was just really bad. But I remember him for what he used to be. I remember Noah Fafita for what he used to be.
And the last couple of games of the season for Jalen Daniels, let's be fair.
Yeah. Yep. So they're going to go 9.
Yeah, Fafita, I mean, geez, Fafita fell off a cliff last year, man. Like, I'd forgive you if you didn't remember that he's playing college football this year. That guy was like a legit dark horse Heisman. Like,
and he had Tet McMillan, one of the best out there, and he kind of just.
He's had 2 pretty good NFL wide receivers his last 2 years there, and when it got to just Tet, his completion percentage dropped like 13 points or something crazy.
Yeah. Brennan Sorsby at 9, Caden Salter at 10, Devin Dampier 11, Wegman
Snaps.
12.
They're the first one that is properly rated Devin Dampier.
Nico Marchiol, Wes. Yeah, Utah fans are going nuts over this.
I mean, come on, man.
I would put Dampier maybe below Wegman and Nico Marchiol. I like Nico Marchiol, 13th on their list, but he won both the games he started last season against Arizona, 18 for 22. Couple 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean,
some call him the lefty Rocco Becht. I've heard that. Mountaineer Paul texts me like 3 times a day. He texts me that. Yeah.
Yes. So that's what but you agree with that portion of the list.
I do. Obviously, we talk about Fafita's numbers dropping. Salter's numbers dropped quite a bit at Liberty too. I like Sorsby. Actually, I think if you're going to do more of a Rocco Becht comparison, Sorsby fits better than Nico Marchiol. And I do have this, I'm like catching myself the last few days, Drake, of like, am I buying too much into Connor Wegman? Like, I think Connor Wegman's good. I saw him play in high school. So like, I do think he's good. And I think A&M is just elite at getting the least out of good players. And that I think there needs to be something to be said about that. But like the dude he can't win a starting job. So yeah, like I do think he's a huge improvement to what Houston had. And I think that's where the conversation comes back to with Connor Wegman. But
sure.
I wouldn't be surprised if you put Nico over him.
I probably would.
I'd maybe put him ahead of Dampier though, but
I would. I don't think because it's the Daquan.
I'm okay with Dampier being 1 spot ahead of him.
To Daquan Finn being so bad that I will never trust a great mid-major quarterback because mean, that he doesn't have the chops that DeQuan Finn had. Like DeQuan Finn came to
buying
Baylor.
into John Mateer, so
True.
technically, I mean, that's basically a mid-major quarterback.
TV rights money is going away. ESPN's losing control. Locked on Big 12, locked on Baylor. ESPN is losing its grip on college football. You hear the numbers, $1 billion to the SEC, $1 billion here, hundreds of millions of dollars. Oh, they love their hockey. They sure love their hockey. And then I sit down and I start to think about it. I'm thinking, what advertisers are paying billions of dollars? Because I know we get paid, you and I, on YouTube revenue. Yep. And I see what YouTube's doling out, and they are giving some real cash to people who don't have massive channels. And in this, this is from puck.com, says the peak TV era, the decade plus when streamers and networks forked over billions to grow and maintain their platforms, is now a relic of the past. And the sports media market appears to be following a similar trajectory. Netflix, Amazon, YouTube, unsurprisingly savvy trade partners. They mention less sexy leagues, F1, the Mountain West, the Pac-12, post-ESPN divorce MLB are going away with these TV contracts because the networks are running out of money. They don't have what they did because now advertisers, if I'm Hyundai, I'm going to YouTube and saying, hey, whoa, ESPN has a handful of million view broadcasts a year, or I can go to the Papa Meat channel on YouTube and ensure that every video has 4 million views. Great. And I'm going to put a lot less money into that too and get way more consistent exposure. ESPN's rule of college football, where all of the money they give to the SEC is going to keep the SEC at 1, is slowly but surely dwindling.
Yeah, and I think you saw the writing on the wall for that when they just gave up Major League Baseball. Like they just didn't.
Which is like a whole ass thing, by the way. Like it's the literal MLB. Barry Bonds,
yes,
Ken Griffey Jr.,
the
Aaron
national
Judge.
pastime. Like, and I get it. MLB is not what it used to be. It is still a pretty big money
Savannah
maker.
Bananas, by the way.
Shout out Fenway. Like it's just crazy though that ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports, just sits there and they're like, you know what, we don't really need that anymore. And they look at a lot of their on-air talent and think, I don't really need that anymore. Fired. They do that a couple times a year now. And it's because all of that money is going into there. And there is something to be said for a network that you wouldn't go to otherwise outside of a live sports broadcast. You know what I mean? Like think about that from an advertiser standpoint. Like you just mentioned, you can advertise on this channel that posts 3 times a week, every week, gets 1 million views on everything. Locked on Big 12, of course, what I'm talking about. And know that you're getting a captive audience all the time and know the demographics that you're hitting versus live sports on ESPN. It's like, sure, you're going to pay a bunch of money to get in that spot, right, during a live broadcast. But there's also a ton of other spots that your advertisements go in that aren't on a live broadcast. And who's watching SportsCenter? Who's watching PTI? Who is watching the Pat McAfee show? A lot of people. But like, it's not what it used to be versus, a CBS of sorts, that's an absolute monster on NFL football. And then most of the rest of the week too. Am I making that was kind of convoluted?
Yeah, no, I don't think you're off because SportsCenter's on when I'm in the hotel room.
And when you go to the dentist,
I sometimes watch McAfee. Yeah, the dentist is like a Disney movie still, and like, hey, I'm an adult dentist. We don't have to do this.
I wandered into a gym one time. They had it on.
I calms people.
I was
down.
lost.
I don't watch a ton of Pat McAfee. I think I turn it on now and see lacrosse frequently. They love lacrosse.
Sport
right
of the
now.
future.
They love some things that just people aren't watching. It pretty much becomes the Ocho for all of July.
Well, see, this is interesting because I didn't watch it today, but I did get a tweet Sunday afternoon that the MLB All-Star Game announcement, which is supposed to be on ESPN, was backed up because Cornhole was on.
Yep. And people wonder why ESPN is struggling so much in the category of raising funds. And it's not all ESPN's fault because, again, YouTube TV or YouTube has popped off. And you have the exact same thing from Roku to Amazon to all, and TNT seems to be pretty savvy with this. But I wonder why they dole out so much money for the UFL, knowing pretty well it's going to fail, knowing they're not going to recoup
all
their
the
money.
other just because all the other rival football leagues have failed. I mean, what kind of an excuse is that?
This one's different. And it's frustrating that people talk about it all the time. Oh, I miss the ESPN I grew up with. I miss the old ESPN. And I think maybe it's not the worst thing in the world that now they don't have the grip on college football, or that soon they won't have the same grip on college football that they've had, because their money is the reason Texas and Oklahoma left the Big 12. And ultimately, a big catalyst for Colorado leaving the Big 12, or Missouri, or Texas A&M, and killing some of the matchups. ESPN, in a not so roundabout way, is the reason that Bedlam doesn't happen every year. And so if we finally lose this God in the sky who's making college football what it is today, I don't really mind that.
Yeah, and like, not for nothing, there is an ESPN contract with the Big 12 as well. But to your point, like, it's the SEC is their baby. It's, like, they've been pregnant with the SEC for 15 years, man.
Just have a C-section at that point. Induce or something.
And so maybe this does level the playing field. Obviously, these TV deals have been what's driven all the conference realignment in the last, 6 or 8 years here. And certainly it has a role in NIL and the transfer portal in weird kind of roundabout ways. It all comes back to the TV deals and the money. So if ESPN is not this strong life-bearing organism to the SEC, maybe that does help everybody else. I don't know. Could it?
I hope so. I would think so. Not surprising, again, given all the streaming stuff, where it's going.
And basically, it's just like, how much more money can we give is basically that article. It's like, we can't, you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing left. It's like sports ticket prices feel like they have to hit that at some point here of like, it's just too expensive. It's just, we can't do it anymore.
Typically every Tuesday, I go get Chick-fil-A, sit at the house. What I would love to watch SportsCenter. I would have 10 years ago. I know what you're doing. The U logos bounce around, boop, 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 and they got the ESPN U. The one's a Seminole, one's a
for the Hogs.
I would watch that. Instead, I come home, I turn YouTube on, I watch Locked On Big 12. I turn YouTube on, and I watch John Boyce. Like I'll turn on anything John Boyce, or I think it's SB Nation. They were, they do the weird, wild, zany stuff, and I'll just watch
like Locked On Arizona. Yeah,
15 minutes of that, or I'll watch Nathan For You, or The Rehearsal, or and I'm invested in sports. I love sports, but I want to see the YouTube version of sports. I'll watch one that says why Memphis will never be in a power conference. I'm like, I would love to know. Show me a little biography on this. Give me a little backup on why Memphis can't. And it's fun to watch. In SportsCenter, you turn it on. I'm like, yeah, Sabalenka's great. This is cool.
Awesome. Yeah.
But then the next segment is cornhole. And I just don't want to do that anymore. I'm tired of this, Grandpa.
Oh, that's a good point, man. I watch a ton of YouTube. I had one last night that was the NHL player who traded himself in the middle of a game.
Yeah.
I'm like, you just can't replicate that on SportsCenter. We've evolved past that.
The craziest Jeff Francoeur stories of all time. And it's great. John Boyce is making it. I think Francoeur is, because he did he was in the East for a while, right? And then he's had like was he in Miami for a bit? He got traded to 8 places there at the end. And
he'll bounce around.
In the middle of Boyce editing the video, he's like, hey, quick pause. Just want to insert myself here. While I was editing this video, he got traded to Miami again. Like it's the beauty of these produced pieces that you can't get on ESPN, where the same guy, Jeff Francoeur, had just been traded in the middle of the editing process, and they had to go back and it's like, I can't change the video now, but just want to let you know. and I love that so much more. I can see why ESPN is losing money, because Hyundai or Toyota or whoever are like, yeah, we could advertise Toyotathon to YouTube, hit a much broader audience, but also an audience that we can kind of curate and feel like our money's going the right direction. That's Cameron Stuart at Real Cam Stuart on Twitter and wherever you find your podcast with Locked On Baylor and YouTube. This has been, it always will be, a crossover. Locked On. Thanks for making it your first listen every single day. Baylor and Dose Grande.